Alrighty. Hello, welcome to episode 4 of the State of Social podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Twitter, merch from us that we made, and Christmas.
Ooh.
So, welcome back.
Woohoo!
And if you're new here, I'm Rhea.
I'm Michaela.
And I am Paige.
And this is a podcast made by social pros for social media pros. So if that's you, you're in the right place.
Period. So, welcome back. All right, so let's just dive right into it. We're going to be talking today about Twitter. There's a lot been going on.
Oh my god.
So, okay, I want to dive into just the little bit of the facts of which is what's going on. Okay,
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's a lot. Okay, so Elon Musk just recently bought Twitter. He is a self-proclaimed free speech absolutist, which is the reason why he wanted to buy Twitter. In an interview before he agreed to buy Twitter, he raised concerns about having tweets mysteriously be promoted and demoted with no insight in what's going on. So he thought an open source algorithm could address these issues. Okay. He also said that, so once he got Twitter, he said that he believes it's important for the future of civilization to have a common digital town square where a wide range of beliefs can be debated in a healthy manner. However, he conceded that the platform cannot become a free-for-all hellscape in addition to adhering to the laws of the land. Our platform must be warm and welcoming to all, is what he said.
Spoiler alert, on his first few days, it did become a hellscape. So,
yes.
Did
so
not
cool.
do that.
Yes.
So thanks for the PR statement,
Mhm.
Mr. Elon, but it didn't do anything.
Yes. So not only did he slash 50% of the company's 7,500 employees, people have also resigned, and users of Twitter are choosing to leave. And I just want to read the screenshot that I took from Tony Braxton. I'm shocked and appalled at some of the free speech I've seen on this platform since its acquisition. Hate speech under the veil of free speech is unacceptable. Therefore, I am choosing to stay off Twitter as it is no longer a safe space for myself, my sons, and other people of color. So there's obviously fewer guardrails against misinformation and extremism. So do you guys have any thoughts so far? Just like,
here's my first thought. Okay, because like everyone in the world knows that this is happening right now, I think,
Mhm.
and I'm sure like if I were watching network television, like all the news networks would be talking about this. I'm sure they probably are, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
But we like this is like one of the spaces that we work. So for me, and I feel like for all of us, like the hard part about this has been that I am consuming all of it through the lens of like knowing that we are expected to have a recommendation for clients or future clients.
Yeah.
So it makes all that is happening feel 100 times more overwhelming to me. Like I also get that the sentiment around it is like sort of like hee hee ha ha kind of from like, and it is. It's like it's such a shit show that it's funny.
Yeah.
But I like am
There's severity.
yeah, I feel like late
Yeah.
at night I've been like, this comes to mind because I'm like,
It's just
like it's funny until it's like part of our work, and then we have to
Right,
like come up with an opinion.
Yeah.
Well, not just an opinion, but like
Yeah.
a logical recommendation.
100%.
So all of the parts that I've been focusing on are the parts that have the most potential to be like bad, really bad.
Yeah.
I think for the long term of people on the platform.
Totally.
And so it's interesting to me, I guess, I don't even know where to begin on my thoughts on this, because I think the other thing that's interesting is like the general user sentiment, like me and you and all of us as like regular old Joes who use Twitter, is like one set of opinions, and then there's also like the second set of opinions that's sort of the same but like really amplified because it's like brand safety concerns.
Totally. Yeah.
And all of this seemingly like just like blew up as soon as he stepped through the front doors with a sink in hand or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's just, I just say all that to say like we're gonna give our like our opinions here and like talk about this as professionals, but also like as a person, it exhausts me and horrifies me because I do not know what it means exactly, but I have to, like we
Yeah.
have to. So I don't know.
It's
That's
just a
my
shit
general
show
opinion. Yeah, I'm
that
like,
we have
"Ha,
to
ha, ha,"
navigate.
but I'm scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot more. To your point, Paige, it's like haha until it's not, because
Mhm.
in the world we live in today, where anybody can do anything apparently, even if it's not the lane that they were born in. You know, we're faced with unbelievable facts, like Elon wanting to buy Twitter. Like, okay, what? You have literally what business doing this,
right,
other than you having this like idea of free speech and wanting to like, okay, fine, whatever, but like maybe just stick to making cars and spaceships. I don't mean to be the person to be like, stay in your lane.
No, but like,
right, pigeonhole someone, be like, in this case, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And I think as professionals in the space, we were talking about this the other day, up until this year, that we like the relationship between social media managers, the social media platforms, and clients, there's never been a distrust of the platforms, because they just work and they do the thing they're supposed to do. We can put our strategy in place, you know, whatever. The variable comes in when you have the clients and the strategy, like that stuff changes, and it's you know, things can happen. But the platforms generally are the same.
Yeah.
This year, there has been days where Facebook and Instagram were down for 12 hours. There was a day where TikTok was down for 12 hours. It's still, stuff like this happens, we were like, oh my gosh, no longer can we rely on the platforms not to have like something happen where it throws everything through a loop. And this is an example of like another limit that we've hit, that it was like, you know, it wasn't until the blue check mark scandal came out this week that we were like, oh my god, like this isn't funny anymore. Brands can actually be harmed in the way of the irresponsibility of this platform, and that's not something we've ever had to have distrust in before.
It kind of reminds me of how like there was, I guess it was last year, the years run together in COVID times, but when the big changes came to Facebook because of Apple instituting the like privacy updates that you can opt out of customized ads, and that really detrimentally harmed the success of advertising on Facebook, which from the like meta side of things, like they're losing money because they didn't expect so many people to opt out of personalized advertising, whatever. I remember when that was all happening, that was like not the first, but one of the major sort of instances where like the platforms were in flux enough to the point where we were having to discuss that in conversation with clients, and there was the questions about like, what does that mean for us? Does it have an impact on us? Does it not? Like, what are your recommendations? But that felt like, okay, this is the industry making a shift overall for the better. Data privacy is important, security is important, whatever. This feels unhinged, off the rails, like, and so we put together just an update. It was just sort of like here's what's happening, or what we're seeing is happening, email to mostly to our partners, to just kind of let them know what we're thinking at this point about what's going on, which we'll get to. But I put in that email, and I stand by this. Everything is changing so fast, and it's moving so quickly that like our recommendations on what to do are probably going to change. And also, even for us as people who are very, very plugged into social media, this is not a social media conversation at this point. It's like it's so much more than that, you know?
Security, it's morals, it's safety.
It's ethical business practices, it's regulation, it's all of these things. But at the end of the day, it's happening to a social media platform, so it impacts us because we have presence there, we have clients who have presence there. And frankly, like, people just, it's in the zeitgeist, people are talking about it. So like we can't put our heads in the sand for like 7 different reasons. It's just one of those things where it's like, these are the times where I'm like, I am not qualified or make enough money to have to like really dissect this, but we have to, so we do. Which has been like, that's been my biggest stressor about the whole thing, is that I'm like, I am not a security FTC compliance expert. I'm not. But to that point, one of the bigger red flags for me, so also I should say this too. I actually had to call Ray yesterday on the FaceTime and just say, I was like, should we be more worried? Like, are we underreacting by not like calling a town hall with all of our clients and like putting something out on like our own social and like just screaming from the rooftops about what's happening? Like, are we underreacting? And to Ray's credit, totally received my sort of chaotic energy on that and was like, no, I don't think we're underreacting, but I do think we can be more kind of like ears up, like red flaggy kind of thing, like just pay a little more close attention to it. And I was grateful for that support, because I was feeling that way, and the reason I was feeling that way is because the news that unsettled me the most around this whole thing, Ray or Michaela, you mentioned people like are leaving in addition to the layoffs. I'm gonna butcher everyone's title, but like the compliance CSO, the chief security officer, I think everybody in the space of compliance and safety and security has exited Twitter, which from a very high level perspective is not a good thing, because the platform itself, forget that it's a social media platform, like the actual platform itself is now totally insecure. Like I saw yesterday this really crazy thread about how, because you can set up 2-factor authentication through like third party authenticators. I guess they had because the app is being edited in real time, which what the hell, that is such a security risk. Like the people in like development, like developers are like looking at the code change literally like in the back end. That's bad. You should not do that.
No.
So they were talking about how like they had just like randomly detached like one of the ways that you can 2FA your account wasn't working. So like if you logged out and then tried to log back in, I think it was like the text code to get an SMS code, I think specifically is what was down. You just like couldn't. So if you're locked out, which is like, I don't care about getting locked out of my personal Twitter account, but like if you're a brand or an organization.
On top of that, if you have somebody out there that has now paid for a blue check mark and put your company's name and logo on their account and act like they're verified, and you can't get into that account, your company account, meanwhile you're being trolled, and you can't get into it without your company's name. All of this would be a result of the irresponsibility that's going on at Twitter headquarters.
That's a trickle down
very
effect.
possible.
And that was the other thing that scared me the most, is when the Eli Lilly thing happened, and then first of all, horrifying, like not fun and games to talk about people's like access to something like insulin or whatever as a Twitter joke. So when the fake, look that up if you don't know what we're talking about, when the fake profile kind of tweeted the misinformation, even though Eli Lilly, the real account, corrected the scenario, their stock plummeted. Like
that's
what? That is not funny. Like that's bad. And feels completely above my pay grade is really how I feel.
And that's when I started to get nervous. That's when I started to pull for the life jacket a little bit and put it on. Like, we don't need to jump the boat yet and alarm our clients, but we should probably have our life jackets within arm's reach. This is going downhill.
What's crazy to me is like Elon is kind of identifying himself on Twitter of the Twitter complaint hotline.
Like, just ask me.
Like, just drop your concerns and everything to below in the thread. Like, dude, you should, like, I think his plans are very high level. Like, okay, it sounds great to have, like, the removal of bots. It does sound good to, like, people should be able to, express themselves, but, like, to what line is that to? And, like, what exactly are those guardrails? Like, yes, you're saying that people can't have like this free-for-all hellscape, whatever he said, but like you're not laying down those rules, and it's just like you're like just winging it. You're winging this entire thing.
And what Twitter Blue, great example. Holy shit,
it's insane. So
I still don't understand, like, did nobody run the idea by him that like this is fine and you can be an advocate for these missions, but like put the money behind the people that know how to do it? Like, why is he doing it?
I think it's megalomaniaism or whatever.
That's what,
word for that would be. Like,
at what point can we address the ego that's going on here? And like a whole, like, there are only 4 or 5 big players in social media platforms, and a whole arm of one of those people, one of those platforms is imploding. How did that happen?
Well, I think that's like, it's like, okay, LOL capitalism. Like, this is what happens when you, that's where we are. Because he could, if he has the money, he can buy it and he can do whatever he wants with it, and that doesn't say that it's right. But the other funny thing is, it's like we don't have tech, especially, is happening faster than it tech, like the big entity happens faster than the people in tech can keep up with it. You know what I mean? So like, it's no surprise that he would, I guess it's not a shock to me that it's possible for something like a purchase of a company, and then thus the cattle, whatever, domino effect of that purchase. It can tank a company. It can, because that's the world we live in, like it's possible. So as much as, I think that's what's interesting to me too, some people are like, I can't believe this. Like, I can't believe it. But it's not a good thing. I'm horrified, but like, oops. But also, it's like empires fall, like this is not how I would like it to go down, with security risks and misinformation and et cetera, but like there would become a time where every platform might become obsolete for one reason or another, and the history books might just say that Twitter went down because of one man's crazy misuse of power, basically.
1000%.
I hope he listens to this.
I do too. Elon, hello.
Because he doesn't care. That's the other thing. He doesn't care, and he doesn't need to care. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter to him. This could tank, and he could walk away and just be like, done.
Right.
Killed it. My bad.
I'm gonna start something else. But
yeah.
To that point, like the very just landscape of Twitter itself, he's discussing like to change it entirely. It's historically known as a micro blogging platform. He's now discussing like changing the character limit to like unlimited so that we can eliminate those screenshots from our notepad. And like just that in itself, it's like, okay, this is like the new Facebook? Like what?
You're like, okay, first of all, we
What's
have those
happening
platforms.
Yeah, we don't need this.
Like, what did we get into here?
Yeah.
Because my unpopular opinion, actually, it's not even unpopular, but like just in addition to how I feel about everything else that's going, like I don't really care as a social media manager if Twitter dies, because it's not. Here's what I'll say: we have no client that Twitter is their primary driver of anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna say that we
So
maybe
true.
have like 3 clients that use Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who it really impacts is people who are thought leaders and have built a presence as themselves on Twitter and are a source of information for people.
Yeah.
Like that sucks that because the only other space that happens on now is like LinkedIn, I think, for like building thought leadership, and that's not really where everyone's audience.
Right.
Well, interesting enough, a
Such a
couple
loaded
months
thing to
ago
say,
you were
but-
saying how you saw a flow of influencers introducing themselves
On
on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because, it's just interesting to see where people are going. Why aren't they going to certain platforms?
And that leads us into our next segment, our TLDR segment, alt tech, Mastodon, and decentralized platforms. Where are people going?
I need to take a nap when
Like where are they going, and what will our job even look like in a year from now? You know.
So let's talk about Mastodon really quick.
First thing, what is this?
So
like a
Mastodon is
dinosaur.
known as a Fediverse, and a Fediverse is defined as an ensemble of federated servers that are used for web publishing and file hosting, but which, while independently hosted, can communicate with each other on different servers. Users can create so-called identities. So we were talking yesterday, and it sounds a lot like a Discord-esque vibe or like Reddit of some sort. It's very similar to Twitter.
Media.
Yeah, so people are saying that it's very similar to Twitter, but it has a lot of tweaks that need to be made. It does have a character limit of 500 versus Twitter's 280 character limit. Retweets are known as boosts, and tweets are known as toots. So that's fun.
If I have to start saying toot in the professional capacity for the rest of my days as a social media manager,
Toots for next week.
please, God, take this hellscape away from me.
I think I'm gonna go
can't.
into the tourism industry next. I think I'm just gonna become a tour guide.
I don't
It's
want to
getting
do
a little
this
much.
anymore.
Okay.
And so
Sorry,
my understanding
continue.
is that, listen, I consider myself to be a social media expert. I do. I'll put I'm nothing if not a social media expert, because that's all I do.
What you
I
got?
better fucking be an expert. What the hell is this? I will be the first to tell you I do not know what's going on here.
I'm sorry to that man.
I am sorry to Web3, the entire space, and
know
all
who
of the
that
people who
is.
respect and trust me, but I do not know what this is.
It's so interesting.
Because I was on their website yesterday in preparation for this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and the differentiator is that like it's decentralized, aka you can have sort of like a self-governance of
Exactly.
the server that you build. And I was like, they to their credit, the website does a pretty good job of like explaining it for like the Neanderthal that is me looking at the website. And it's like, well, you have to choose which server to create your, what did you call it?
They're called instances.
Your instance on, which like, and what I guess the server you pick is sort of when you get to decide like how much governance you want.
Yep. You choose the
want?
rules as loose or as tight as like exactly what you want.
Confusion.
So
for
there
me.
are administrators of these instances, and they make and enforce the rules.
Which
Is
is
this, like,
very,
public?
very Discord-y vibe.
Yes, it's very Discordy, and yes, so so it's decentralized. It's built within open source software, and it allows people to sort themselves into servers and communities that have shared expectations and norms.
So this is like actually in practice this bullshit that Elon's saying he wants Twitter to be, because he was talking about open source API and blah,
Yeah.
blah,
So
blah.
like if it's public, but you can create different servers, would it be like you can, is it like Pinterest, like I don't even know what to compare it to, like
Yeah, like I was reading on the website, it's like there's no one app that you go to like see all of these
what?
pieces
So
of
you
content.
can't even go through and like sort through all the different servers people have created?
Where like which one
Yeah.
do you want to join?
Yeah,
Like, you know,
I guess you can see it in multiple places. God, please, if you are listening to this
So-
and you are like, you all sound idiotic about this topic, like
It's
I
me.
will pay you a top dollar for a primer on what the hell this is.
Come on our
because
next
I don't
episode
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
help
and
us out.
explain what we're
But
talking
this,
about.
the reason that I think it's good that we're bringing it up, whether we really understand what it is or not, is this. I firmly believe that social media will not look like it does today certainly in 5 years,
Yeah.
maybe not even in 2 years. I think it's going to keep changing, and that feels spooky at first. It's like, I'm scared.
Mhm.
However, social media, the social media we know and practice now wasn't what it was. It was different
Mhm.
5 years
Yeah.
ago from today. I think the changes just felt more gradual and a little bit more accessible to like the average person.
Yeah.
But so all that to say, like, I think it's crazy that it's gonna change, and it's crazy that we might have to learn what these things are, and I will laugh out loud if in a year from now we listen back to this and we're like, we sounded like idiots, but now it's like totally
Yeah.
our vernacular and like we know all this
Right,
stuff.
right.
But it's probably what's happening, because the nature of the beast is that it's gonna keep changing.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. I also think it makes me stressed because, and this is why this podcast was made.
So true.
It is not easy to work in a field where you are expected to remain an expert even if the very fundamental things that you do change. Like, it's possible that social won't even use sort of the same skill sets that you are required to be good at it now in 2 years or whatever. And
Yeah.
if we want to stay in social or whatever, we will have to totally learn a new skill set. That happened. A great example, it seems insignificant now, but like I remember when video started to like literally be able to be used on social media, like there was a time you couldn't post video and
Yeah.
now you can. I remember thinking like, I don't want to have to learn to edit video because that to me is a trade that I don't have. Like, I don't want to do that. But now it's second nature.
One, something to consider there, when you were thinking about it back then, you were thinking, I don't want to have to be an editor on a video platform, like on a Premiere Pro on my
Yeah.
computer, sitting
Right,
and
because it
editing
wasn't accessible.
manually. But then the the industry adapted, because I'm sure everybody thought that, and like, no, we need something easier that's not going to take our whole computer to shut down and sound like a hoverboard to get it to render.
Yeah.
And then we have social editing,
Yeah,
which
that's a
now
good
as a
point.
business, we hardly ever do editing the traditional way, maybe for things like this or whatever.
Yeah.
But as far as client content, we only edit social first. So like we're
Mhm.
editing in CapCut or
Mhm.
TikTok exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And to the whole point of like all of this, I'm very curious to see where it's going to go, because in the most recent years, platforms like Mastodon have already emerged, such as Rumble, Parler. Trump came up with his own Truth Media.
Yeah.
So, and these platforms are typically far right.
Mm-hmm.
People kind of gravitate towards. So I'm just like wondering.
Honestly, when we first brought this up, and I think I said this to you guys, that's why I immediately like disregarded this, because my initial instinct was like, oh, this is just another like far right
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
But like, no, they're like anybody can make one, unfortunately, which is like the truth we've seen. But in this case, it's like, oh shoot, when do we need to start paying attention to something like when is it just a fad?
Yeah.
When is it just like a small
Yeah.
group trying to make something happen, or when is it something we as social managers have to take seriously? That's always the trick.
Well, and Ray, you said something really insightful to me yesterday when we were talking about this topic. Because we were talking about Twitter, and we were talking about how alarming it is that the code is being changed like in real time, and that features are going on and offline without proper testing or anything like that. And we were talking about how the developer world is most horrified by that, I think, because they know exactly how risky that is from a security and compliance standpoint, which also so does the FTC, by the way. The FTC has already issued basically like the sternest warning to Twitter I've ever heard them kind of direct to a social platform, especially basically saying get your security shit together, or this is going to be a huge problem. You're not adhering to any sort of compliance standards. So developers are right to be worried, because the FTC is also like, what are you doing? And in Europe, Twitter's about to get the smackdown because they have much stricter security regulations there. But if developers, you said to me, you were like, we should probably take our cues from that space, because if they're worried about it from like the fundamental building blocks of the platform, they're worried about that, then maybe that's when we should tune into. And so I think that's a great insight. And I also think I have heard Mastodon in the space of like the developer DevOps world, like they're kind of talking about it, probably because it's like second nature to them. They kind of understand this idea of like building these autonomous, I don't know, these things. So for me, that's like a really interesting cue, because I'm like, to your point, I don't know when things are like worth paying attention to or not, but like this one I've heard from that space, and if we're gonna take our cues from them, like maybe this is one to tune into. But it's funny because I feel like more than ever, it's not just like, there's another social platform that works just like the other social platforms, but done differently, which is how it used to be for us. It'd be like, oh, TikTok, it's like what Vine used to be. Like we didn't have to learn a new language to understand TikTok, right? Even though it was very different. With this, it's like, if you want to really learn about it, you have to totally change you just need a whole new set of understanding, which is the big difference for me and how the evolution of social media has been going, which, like I said, it's cool, but it makes the learning curve steeper. And for me, that's when I'm like, okay, like either we need to like dig our heels in and learn, or we're just gonna have to, like, what the one option I won't consider is just going down with the ship. Like I'm not gonna be like a Twitter diehard and be like, I want Twitter to stay and nothing else. Like no, we need to evolve.
And as hard as we ride and die for TikTok in terms of like, because they're the leaders with video content, that's probably going to be outed someday by another one that's even better, and we're going to have to like, some things must die sometimes, and that's sad, right. And you get sad and you have to say goodbye, but you move to the next thing.
That's
and
right.
My final thought on this is that at the end of the day, and we're currently going to be tomorrow recording a course on this, and this is the epitome of what the course teaches, is that as a social media strategist, you are trying to do a few things at the end of the day. Build a community, get brand awareness, and actually, those are the first two that are coming to my mind. I had a third, but I'm forgetting it. Just focusing on the first two, you can do that on any platform. So as overwhelming as it feels to think about what's to come and how things that we're comfortable with now might be obsolete in 5 years, as long as at the end of the day we know how to create community, put the brand's awareness out there, make it happen, and make it cute, make it on aesthetic. That's all. We can do that anywhere. We can do that in a Walmart parking lot if we needed to, without any technology.
So true.
That's what being a strategist is, and that will carry us through.
The spaces will change, but our overall strategy at the moment will not. And if it does need to change, then we are the right people to assess that. On that note, I do want to leave, if you are also a social media manager, we can also put this in the show description notes, but I will tell you, write this to, what's today, the 15th? As of today, this is, if you are getting questions about Twitter and your clients or people that you work for are like, what do we do? This is what we've told our partners and where we stand right now. So just like a little tiny piece of practical advice is, number one, we've said to just pull advertising budget. If you are advertising on Twitter, like paid campaigns, it's too volatile right now. Just pull that, which is Elon's worst nightmare, but like pull the money. It's not worth it. It's also about to be the holiday season, which is already an influx of cost. So take that budget, pause it. If you want, you can put it on other platforms, but you're going to see an increased cost on those spaces too. Or think about like an influencer campaign, or just hold on to it. It's just not. Don't dump it into Twitter.
So true.
Secondly, we have not yet recommended that clients depart the platform, and we're not recommending that because if there is a real threat of misinformation and this blue check situation, if you can buy verification and potentially do so under a false identity, it doesn't help you to not have an owned platform on the space. You know what I mean? So like you right now we're saying to keep your presence there. You don't have to run content. If you want to pause, but just, retain the space. That way, God forbid, you are the next Eli Lilly, exactly. You actually have your own handle that you can combat misinformation
you can
with.
get back on and crisis management if you need to.
Set the record straight.
And if the scales of security tip to where it is really dangerous to have your user, information on a platform like Twitter. Like if that comes to light, then maybe reconsider. But like as a brand, I think just holding is the right option right now. And also like take cues from your clients' industries. Like look and see what other people are doing, and also just be willing to have a conversation with them. Like that's where we are. We have basically said that the floor is open if we want to talk about this and problem solve it, because the fact is it's fucking crazy, and it could be insignificant or very significant depending on who you are, what you do, what your business does. So just being willing to talk it out, I think, is a huge perk. It's also what makes us good at this job. So anyway, tell them to stop spending money. If you want, you can tell them to do whatever you want, but we're not telling people to delete their platforms just to be safe. Better to own your space than to not own it for now. If that changes, make another decision. And overall, just keep a real eye on what's going on, not just from the like social media angle of it, but like the broader implications. Keep an eye on the security and the compliance conversations. Keep an eye on the FTC. Like that stuff is more important than like the social strategy of it all, you know?
We've also, I think, I read this somewhere, maybe you said we had a question from a client, but around like, do you need to be making a statement as to whether you are on the platform or are not on the platform at this time? No, I don't think we're there yet, but if and when it did get to that point, or if that makes you the most comfortable, like if you decide to pull your live strategy for the next couple months that was going to go on Twitter, but you want to keep your account to hold that space, you could put a tweet out that says, as a company, we've decided to suspend our strategy on this platform. Here's our reasons why. These are our, we'll return if this happens. Like if you feel like you as a company or a brand want to make that stance, that could be good, because then people will come, they'll see you still have a profile or an account, but they'll see that you've made a statement.
And let them know where else they can find you, and then just leave it at that.
That's the other point. Let them know where else they can find you.
Exactly. And that's what other users have
definitely
done. You can find me on Instagram, whatever.
What an interesting,
so crazy.
Never a dull moment.
Just didn't want to end without one actionable tip, because I feel like I have been feeling like I don't know which way is up on this topic. So if you are also feeling that way, like you are not an expert on security and compliance, neither are we. Like you're not supposed to be. It's okay to be confused. It's okay to be really spooked by everything that's going on. Or more so just kind of like watching it from afar, like a zoo. Like it totally is. It's a fucking shit show.
Well, now, like you said it earlier, we are not experts in these topics of like needing to know if this is extreme or not, if we need to make decisions. And because we are the social experts, we now have a new hat to wear, which is the responsibility of making this decision. So that is why, like, not shameless plug, that is why we have the Hive, that is why we have our social Discord channel. Like, working in this business can be so isolating and so lonely and so scary, and no guide whatsoever. So like, don't go it alone.
No,
connect with people that are also experiencing all this for the first time. Plug into your community, and that's why we're here. We want you to come join us for this reason.
I mean, we're literally having these conversations in our own social media manager community on Discord today. And everyone's got a different take on it, and everyone's got a different temperature on it, and that's what makes me feel better, is because I know that I actually have a space that we could go and be like, okay, what are we doing? Like, collectively, what's the call? And we have that there. So doing it alone is not an option anymore. It's because it's not just willy-nilly posting a graphic, sending a tweet. Social media is growing, as it should be, into a much bigger beast, and it's not something that you should tackle by yourself.
Tap into the collective intelligence. We're here, like, let's be it together.
Especially when it's moving in flight. Like, things are happening and changing in real time. While things are going on. Like, you probably have tweets scheduled. Well, you know what I mean? Like, that was another thing I was thinking about. I'm like, oh my god, do we you just never know. So anyway, we're here for you. It's okay. It's 100%. Okay to be scared sometimes.
It's okay to be confused. That was the biggest thing yesterday when I was just like diving
have to research for your podcast.
All of this. It was very hard to like really find my own opinion on all of it, because it's just like so many gray areas. Like, certain things sound good, but then like the critiques that you hear, like, it gives you a whole new perspective, and it's just like it's really nice to come together with like-minded individuals and just like come to a common ground. I think that's like the beauty of our community, and take whatever you want from this, and the conversations that you have with the people that are in your space. Okay.